Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Spray 2 pixels. I said it incorrectly. I caught that later in my editing. I said spray n pixels, so it's spray 2 pixels. So welcome back. I wanted to go over something real quick because I didn't feel like I gave it much of an opportunity to go over the book, like its details. So I just wanted to be able to zoom in on it to capture the image and also be able to give you the ISBN number so you know exactly what the book is and looks like. So anyways, just wanted to give you some insight about that. And the other thing I was gonna say, what's cool about the book is that it also breaks it down to character design, storyboarding. It's not just background design. So this whole process of creating the Family Guy show. And I thought that was pretty cool and interesting. But I'll show you that right now. Here's an example of the character design page. And you can see there's turnarounds, there's costume changes, there's new character designs that are included and added depending on what the episode needs to tell the story. There's like Stewie with tattoos. So it's pretty cool, Quagmire transforming into a toilet. So this is, it's creative, innovative, but it's all based off what the script needs and then what the director wants to see as well. The next page is prop design, and you can see exactly what prop designer does. The prop designs are things that move in the background. It could be anything from machinery, things that the characters hold, equipment, bag of groceries, bag of bread, vehicles, anything that's not held to the background. The background's still, but every prop is either picked up by somebody, by one of the characters, or they're moving in the background. And that's what a prop designer does. And this is a color design page in the book. And it's, as you can see, they color the backgrounds and the prop designs that we create, and they bring basically our images and designs that we create to life. They color the characters as well. So just to give Korea an idea of what the color of the locations are going to be and the characters and props. So this is a good idea. So if you want to be a colorist and you're good with color, you love color, this is a good job as well. I thought this part was pretty funny because it's about writing the scripts, goes over that, and dry erase board. They throw out ideas out, see what they're gonna do. And I thought this background was funny. I designed this background. It's supposed to be the writer's room. And I thought that was kind of cool because I could, go to the writer's room and use it as my reference material to basically design this location. And this is another one that I designed. This is the conference room, and you can see all the directors, the producers, and the writers all together brainstorming on different ideas for the next season. I thought that was pretty cool. That's also in the book. And then there's tons of information in this book. There's stuff on the actors here. If you guys are big fans of Mila Kunis, she's in here as well. It's just really cool. I'll flip through it. There's also storyboards. It's just like a plethora of information. Title cards, just everything, editing, timing. It's amazing. Anyways, I feel like I'm not trying to ask you a percentage from this book, but I just thought it was a great, phenomenal book. If anyone's interested in learning more about animation and kind of break in, this is the way to go. Oh, ouch. Also wanted to touch on something a little history about myself as well. I know I mentioned in the last video, I was from San Jose, California, and again, it's like 45 minutes south of San Francisco. I just want to talk about that because not a lot of people know this, especially nowadays, that it was an interesting upbringing. It was an interesting environment. I grew up, predominantly Portuguese and Mexican neighborhood. it was that literally down the street from downtown. Like the freeway kind of divided our neighborhood. Actually, there's two freeways. They divide our neighborhood into like segments, and one part of the freeway was downtown, and the other part was the neighborhood. But I remember as a kid, the other side of the freeway was also a neighborhood, but then they tore down the old neighborhood to put the Children's Discovery Museum and other hotels, the convention center. So I was there. I remember that before all that was built. I even remember the San Jose Sharks Arena being built. I have pictures of that as well. So yeah, so it was a really interesting time because there was a lot of construction and a lot of change going on while I was like entering my teenage years. So I got to experience and see all that. But and my neighborhood was interesting because as I was growing up, I would say I would see my first graffiti influence or graffiti that I noticed around the neighborhood was gang writing and gang, I guess we call block letters. It was simple, like 3D, just a hollow. We call it hollow. It's no filling, and then might have some shading on the 3D part, but it was very simple. But I always thought the interesting part about that was the writing, just the way the letters were. They weren't, your basic script handwriting, or they weren't your basic, print. It was had a certain stylistic design to it, and I always thought that was pretty cool, But I didn't quite understand much about it at the time because I was a kid, and you're talking like, early '80s, late '70s. So it was like I didn't really understand the culture of that. It was years later that I understood, it was like the Cholo culture, Chicano culture, the lowrider culture. It was all kind of affiliated together. But they're all older than I was. There was like a generation before me. And I was coming in to my time with the emergence and the underground culture, the subculture of the hip hop culture. So here, is this Chicano culture around me that's already been established since like 50s and 60s, all through the 70s and early 80s, and then now you have a whole new movement from the East Coast, from New York and Philly, of this like graffiti culture, this hip hop culture, intertwined with breakdancing, rapping, all that. So that comes to the West Coast, and I become influenced by that culture. But I'm aware of the Chicano culture, but I don't really grow up amongst it. You know what I mean? I don't grow up like that, and I don't have a lot of friends who are involved in that. Everybody's older than I am. So, anyways, I'm gonna stop right there. Going back to that part about the graffiti hip hop culture coming into California, a lot of people talk about, this documentary called Style Wars, or the books, Subway Art. They talk about all these things that came out like 84, 85, and everybody, like the whole West Coast blew up with it. But I have prior history to that because my first influences of graffiti were in 1983 when I saw one of my first pieces ever in the West Coast. I didn't know what it was called. I just know that I was a young kid riding my BMX bike, and I drew already. I already drew my mom's portrait. I drew like animals, just kind of like little things like that. And I'm riding my bike, and I go to this bridge that we called the Walls of Fame in San Jose. I ride my bike, and there was train tracks and everything. And I see this really colorful, like, word, and I wasn't sure what that was because I had never seen anything like it down there. The only things that were down there was that gang. It said VHS at 14, Barrio Horseshoe, and 14, X and a 4, or XIV. And then the other thing I saw was a swastika, this is Nazi swastika, but it was very simple, and both were in black paint. It was very simple. The rest of the walls are gray, just straight concrete. There was like nothing on those walls. They're like basically virgin walls. We call those virgin walls. and they haven't been touched. Those are the only things that were on there. And like again, it was just like very simple. But this piece, this graffiti piece, was colorful. It had like effects. It had blending. It had style. It had artistic ability. I can still read it. It said Nexus, and it had a skull, a white skull next to it, as if it was a character. And it was interesting because to me, it was like I had never seen anything like that before. I had never seen someone integrate, letters or symbols together with a character and the word and in full color, full spectrum. So I was so curious about it that I actually went down there. It was near a creek. I went down the train tracks into the creek area. And there was walls everywhere, but this is one wall had that Nexus piece. And I saw the spray cans on the ground sitting there, and I picked them up to see if there's any paint in them. They were completely empty, completely. And then I could smell the fumes from the wall, like they were kind of radiating from the wall. And I'm like, wow, this is fresh. Like this is just freshly painted. It could have been an hour ago, it could have been the day before, but it was still lingering, that smell. And I was just thinking, oh my God, this is incredible. And it says Nexus. I could read that. I'm like, who is this guy? Who did this? And it was beautiful to me. Like it made an impact on me. Like basically planted the seed of like graffiti culture, Like it was like, I don't know what it was, but it had planted the seed, And this is 1983 before, the documentary was released on the West Coast on PBS, before the books were released on the West Coast. I hadn't seen any of that yet. So that's why it blew my mind, because I was like, what is this? I want to learn about this. I want to know what this is. And I want to be part of this as well. I remember I wrote a poem. I'll have to find it and read it to you guys. I wrote a poem about that experience and my feelings of what I felt. Years later, I ran my hand across the entire wall, and I could feel the gloss paint, the flat paint, the semi-gloss, and I could feel all the textures, It's rough, smooth, slick. And I was like, oh wow, not only is there an odor to this, and which is going into my brain like the odor of the paint, but also the textures of the paint, all the different kind of paints. And then the visual, so it was like stimulation by touch, stimulation by smell, and stimulation by sight, because the colors were vibrating. And I was just like, it blew my mind. And that was my first introduction to graffiti. San Jose was definitely an interesting experience for me because my parents were immigrants, and I was first generation, and it was a lot of kids were first generation during that time, but then there was some kids that had been around for second generation or third generation. Some Mexican kids didn't even speak Spanish. So I remember feeling a little bit like weird when I would speak Spanish to other kids, and the kids who were second or third generation had no clue what we're saying, and I kind of felt like they didn't like it. It bothered them that we could communicate with each other in our native tongue and they couldn't. So I thought that was interesting. So I remember feeling a little bit like a shame, like, oh, maybe I shouldn't be speaking because I'm offending someone because I'm speaking a different language. I thought that was interesting, feeling like, oh, whoa, I can't. I'm making these people feel odd, or they don't like it, or you know what I mean? It was just like this weird vibe that I got. So it's like I had to like speak in English only, or felt like I had to speak in English so that I could make others feel comfortable. It was interesting, being 13 years old, 14 years old, and kind of having those feelings. You're not sure where it's coming from, what it is, but you're just trying to like fit, that's what I felt. I was trying to fit with everybody, trying to get along with everybody and just be cool with everybody. But it was definitely an interesting time. I was going to mention that too. My neighborhood was also split later a little more. I remember growing up and I had to walk on Virginia, on the street, Virginia Avenue, I can't remember what it's called. But Virginia was a main road that cut through the neighborhood as well. I mean, it wasn't a big road, but it was a long road. And it was a way to get to the main streets. And I remember there was a Gardner Community Center on the other side. I crossed the Guadalupe River, and then there was like this construction site where they were building the new freeway, but was stopped for whatever reason for many, many years. And I used to kind of like ride my bike down there. Construction site was just basically an empty freeway because they stopped, and there was like a big mound of dirt and like construction equipment. And I used to basically ride my bike down there and do graffiti as well, practice. But anyways, there was a Gardner Community Center that was down the street, and I remember going there, and it was very welcoming. And they had like foosball, they had games, they had a weight room, they had classes, and I remember it was very inviting, and I was very welcome there. And they invited me to things and stuff to go there and, you know, be part of. And it was nice. I felt like it was nice for the community to have that as well. And I remember I went there in the beginning and stuff, and then I started getting a little bit older, and I noticed like you know, the kids wanted to hang out and go do things, and my friends wanted to hang out and do things. And they didn't really want to go to the center anymore, so that's what I started doing. I should have stuck with the center because there was a lot they were offering and a lot of wisdom as well. And I kind of like pulled away from the center for a while. Later on, I came back to it, but I pulled away to basically get involved more in the graffiti culture. I became a tagger, and I was about 14 years old when I started really getting into it, deeply involved. And you know, I always came across the center. You know, they always invited me back, and you know, I kind of hesitated, and I think part of me was ashamed. I didn't want them knowing what I was doing, what I was up to. Years later, they knew who I was and what I was doing. They didn't like it, but you know what I mean? But and then years after that, towards the end of high school, I remember Rudy Martinez finding out who I was, and then because I think everybody knew who I was, couldn't really hide it after a while. Good people talk, you know, and they hired me to basically paint liquor stores and put murals on liquor stores, and he would compensate me. He'd be like, "I'll pay you $150. You do a mural, and you keep all the spray paint." And I'm like, "That's a great deal. Like, I don't have to go, you know, that's an awesome deal because now I get free paint and I get paid and I do some art." So it was kind of like a win-win for me, and it was a win-win for him as well because he's thinking, okay, I could give him like recycled paint, you know, I could give him like, you know, paint that doesn't make cost him a lot, and he could get me a wall, and then it could beautify the neighborhood, and the store owner's happy, the neighborhood's happy, and I'm happy, and then he's happy, so everybody's happy. And I thought that was an interesting concept. And when he reached out to me, I think I might have been 17 years old, yeah. And then I think he got me like 7 walls, something like that, in the neighborhood, in the West Side. So I ended up doing that. I ended up doing murals, you know, every few months. I did a few murals around the neighborhood of your liquor store. Some had a positive message, and some were like "Stop the Violence," or some were like, you know, just the name of the liquor store. You know, I think I did one that says La Raza Unida. Things like that. I did one on the East Side. I think another organization got me that one, but that one didn't last long. But that's a whole different story. But anyways, yeah. So I did things like that. You know, the West Side, San Jose. I did the bathrooms at the park. These like Looney Tune characters around the park. You know, all in spray paint. I did all my work back then was in spray paint. So that's kind of what my medium was. You know, I didn't, you know, have access or the money, finances for brushes and all kinds of paints that were more expensive, and spray paint was way cheaper back then. So Rudy Martinez definitely got me that, and you know, I got an award years later for my contributions to the neighborhood from the Gardner Community Center. I still have it. So that was pretty cool, and that kind of motivated me, you know, to maybe pursue the art thing. I'm like, you know, maybe I could do something with this, you know. And then Rudy being a huge influence, the Gardner Community Center as well. And then my art teacher at Broadway High, her name is Deborah Kennedy. She was an artist in residence, and she was she did installations, and she was a painter as well. And she traveled to do art. She did the Berlin Wall in Germany, and back, you know, when the whole Russia had that wall, and you always hear in the news, I remember hearing people getting killed crossing over the wall, the Berlin Wall, jumping over it, whatever they had to do. She did some artwork on that wall, so I remember her showing me pictures years later. I thought that was pretty cool. So she got me more into like do more political art. So I started doing that. And then I painted the entire school of Broadway. They gave me the paint, they gave me the walls. We did them on wood panels so they could remove them. So I did that for them. So I did a lot of like volunteer work. And like I said, it was low compensation, but I was a high school kid. So to me, $150 and all the free paint I wanted was a good deal. And I get to paint and do something creative for the community. And I thought that was great. So I said those that definitely helped me, I think, find my path into the art world, believing that, you know what, I could do something with my art. And my teacher said that. She goes, you definitely have something, you have a talent, you should stick with it. I think you should go to art school, and you could do a lot with the skills you have already. And she told me, some of the stuff you're doing, some of the design work you're doing, she goes, I learned in art school, I learned it, and you're already doing it in high school naturally, not from a book, not from a class, just instinctually. And I thought to myself, that's pretty cool she said that, because it tells me that my parents are wrong, and that there's someone who doesn't, there's no reason for her to tell me that. And also Rudy believing in me and giving me places to paint shows me that there is a place for me in the arts. Like I have to figure out what part of the arts I want to do, but there's definitely something there that I should pursue. So just letting you know, guys, if you guys are down about your art, or you're not sure if you should follow your heart, you have to work on your craft, and you have to really prepare yourself for a hard road, because it's not easy. But if you have people who believe in you, who see something, who tell you the truth, have no reason, nothing to gain from telling you the truth. And sometimes the truth hurts sometimes. Like I said, you need to go to college, you need to brush up, you need to polish, like a diamond in the rough, you got to polish it up, so you could do something. And because there's something there, definitely. And you have to put in the work, that's just the truth. So when someone says they believe in you and they have nothing to gain by telling you that, and they're just like, I see something, listen, stop and listen to them. Don't blow them off. Don't be like, whatever, you're just saying that to me. Really listen to what they're telling you, and then listen to yourself as well. It's like, can I do it? Do I want to do it? What do I want? And then go for it. Thanks. Have a good one. And again, I just want to say, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and have a great day. Thank you.